Portion in your syllabus is the natural gas, that is CNG, LNG and LPG. Let us discuss these in details. First of all, natural gas. Natural gas comes from reservoirs beneath the earth's surface. Sometimes it occurs naturally and is produced by itself. It is called non-associated gas, or in some other cases it comes to the surface with crude oil. It is called an associated gas, and in some other cases it is being produced constantly, such as in landfill gas. So the natural gas itself occurs as an associated gas or non-associated gas or as a landfill gas. Subsurface natural gas is a fossil fuel, meaning that it is derived from organic materials deposited and buried in the beneath of the earth in millions of years ago. Other fossil fuels are coal and crude oil. Together, crude oil and gas constitute the type of fossil fuel known as hydrocarbons, because these molecules in these fuels are combinations of hydrogen and carbon atoms. Natural gas is a flammable gaseous mixture composed of mainly methane, that is CH4. When natural gas is produced from the earth, it includes many other molecules like ethane, propane, butane and heavier hydrocarbons, and also small quantities of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, sulfur compounds and water may also be found in the natural gas. It is found on many underground cavities either as free deposit, that is, or it is linked to the petroleum field. One can see the natural gas as free deposit in Indonesia, Algeria, New Zealand, and also it is associated with the petroleum products in Saudi Arabia, Nigeria and Alaska. This figure shows a typical natural gas composition. That is, the natural gas mainly consists of around 82% of methane, and it contains 19% of the remaining 19 or 18% of other gases, that is ethane, nitrogen, propane, carbon dioxide, butane, pentane and some other rare gases. Natural gas is a very important fossil fuel and is stored under high pressures as compressed natural gas. It can be transported over long distances in pipelines or as LNG in ship across oceans. Natural gas and its components are used as raw materials to manufacture of a wide variety of products, from fibers for clothing to plastic for healthcare, computing and furnishings. In our country, the natural gas has been found in Tripura, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and in the Krishna Godavari Delta areas. Next, we have to study what is LNG. LNG is the short form of liquefied natural gas. That is, liquefied natural gas is the natural gas that has been cooled to a point that it condenses to a liquid, which occurs at a temperature of approximately about minus 256 degree Fahrenheit or minus 161 degrees centigrade at atmospheric pressure. Then what is the composition of liquefied natural gas? The LNG is a cryogenic liquid. The term cryogenic means low temperature liquid, generally below minus 100 degree Fahrenheit. LNG is a clear liquid with a density of about 45% the density of water. LNG is made up of mostly methane as shown in the figure. That is, it contains around 95% methane and other 5% of other gases. The liquefaction processes requires the removal of the non-methane components like carbon dioxide, water, butane, pentane, and heavier components from the produced natural gas. LNG is odorless, colorless, non-corrosive, and non-toxic. When vaporized, it burns only in concentrations of 5 to 15% when mixed with air. Then we have to mention the LNG value chain. Liquefaction of the natural gas reduces the volume by approximately 600 times, and this makes it more economical to transport between the continents. The LNG value chain is composed of complex segments. The major stages of LNG value chain that it is excluded the pipeline operations between these stages consist of the following stages. First one is the exploration of the natural gas in the earth crust and the production of the gas for delivery to the gas users. Most of the time, natural gas is discovered during the search of oil. Next step is liquefaction. That is, liquefaction converts the natural gas into a liquid state so that it can be transported in ships to distant destinations. Third step is the shipping. Shipping the LNG in special purpose vessels. And the fourth one is the storage and regasification. This step converts the LNG stored in specially made storage tanks from the liquefied phase to the gaseous phase, which is ready to be removed to the final destination through the natural gas pipeline system. This value chain captures the impact of the cost at each step that determines the final price of the imported liquefied natural gas. The LNG is stored in double-walled tank at atmospheric pressure. The storage tank is really a tank within a tank. The annular space between the two tank walls is filled with insulation. The inner tank is in contact with the LNG is made up of materials suitable for cryogenic service and structural loading of LNG. These materials include 9% of nickel steel, aluminum, and pre-stressed concrete. The outer tank is generally made up of carbon steel or pre-stressed concrete. To return LNG to gaseous state, it is fed into the regasification plant. On arrival at the receiving terminal in its liquid state, LNG is pumped first to a double-walled storage tank similar to those used in the liquefaction plant at atmospheric pressure. Then it is pumped to high pressure through various terminal components where it is farmed in a controlled environment. The LNG is warmed by passing it through pipes, heated direct fired heaters or seawater, or through pipes that are in heated water. The leading countries producing natural gas and selling to the worldwide markets in the form of LNG were Qatar, Indonesia, Malaysia, Australia, Nigeria, Thailand, Tobago, Algeria, and Russian Federations. Many other countries play smaller but significant and growing roles in the natural gas product and LNG exporters. Countries like Angola and Venezuela were striving to reach for their potential for the global LNG marketplace, and the countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran that have the vast reservoirs of natural gas could also participate as LNG exporters. Now we have to study some other common gas terminologies. LNG is often confused with other terminologies like natural gas liquids, that is NGLs, compressed natural gas, that is CNG, liquefied petroleum gas LPG, and gas to liquids, that is GTL. So it is essential to have a knowledge about these fuel terminologies. In your syllabus you have to study the CNG, LNG and LPG. The LNG is I have already mentioned. Next we have to discuss the LPG and CNG. LPG, it is called a liquefied petroleum gas. That is, liquefied petroleum gas is a mixture of propane and butane in a liquid state at room temperatures under pressures of less than 200 psi, that is pounds per square inch gauge. It is a common measure of pressure. This is the first product of distillation from the crude oil. LPG is often incorrectly called propane because the composition varying widely from nearly 100% propane in cold countries to only 20 to 30% propane in hot countries. Thus, in the US and Canada, LPG consists primarily of propane, whereas in other European countries, the propane content in LPG is less than 50%. In fact, commercial LPG may not have a uniform composition of only propane and butane, but it contains many other lighter gases in traces and also contains some olefinic gases which are obtained from petrochemical plants. That is, the LPG is a mixture of, generally it is a mixture of propane and butane. The propane and butane together constitute around 95% and the remaining 5% contain other gases. Worldwide, LPG is used heavily for domestic purposes such as cooking and heating water. One of the simplest tests of LPG quality as required by its use as a domestic cooking gas is the weathering test. This figure shows the weathering test of LPG. Here we can see a graduated test tube, a thermometer, LPG stamp, sample and a stand. In this test, 100 ml of liquid LPG is kept in a test tube with a mercury in glass thermometer dipped into it. Liquid LPG starts vaporizing through the open mouth of the test tube to the atmosphere, causing the temperature to fall rapidly. After 95 ml of the liquid is vaporized, the residual liquid temperature is noted. If the temperature is very low, that is below 0 degrees centigrade, then the proportion of propane in that mixture is more, and it is high, that is above 2 degrees centigrade, then the proportion of butane will be more. For domestic use, the maximum weathering temperature should be 2 degrees centigrade. Also the LPG is tested for its corrosive properties by copper strip corrosion test, and also the traces of hydrogen sulfide and mercaptan that can be measured by doctor's test, which uses a solution of sodium plumbate and traces of elemental sulfur for the black precipitation of lead sulfide. The presence of moisture in LPG is troublesome as it may be converted to ice during vaporization, which will be ultimately choke the valve and make damage it. Therefore, the pipelines that transfer LPG and other plumbing equipments may be damaged due to the formation of ice. Hence, the LPG should be dry and no free water should be present in the LPG. Last many years, LPG has also been used as a fuel in light-duty vehicles. Next, we have to discuss the compressed natural gas, that is called CNG. LNG is not same as that of the CNG. CNG is a natural gas that is pressurized and is stored in welding bottles like tanks at pressures up to 3600 psi. Typically, CNG is same composition as pipeline quality natural gas, that is, the gas has been dehydrated and all other elements reduced to traces so that the corrosion is prevented. CNG is often used as a vehicle transportation fuel and is delivered to an engine at a low pressure vapor, that is at a low vapor pressures, that is up to 300 psi. CNG is often misrepresented as the only form of the natural gas that can be used as vehicle fuel. However, LPG, LNG can also be used as vehicle fuels, that is in transportation fuel. They are used as also transportation fuels. So, the CNG, LPG and LNG, these three are used as transportation fuels. Next is natural gas liquids, that is NGLs. Natural gas liquids are made up of mostly molecules that have heavier than methane. These molecules liquefy more rapidly than methane. NGLs are the hydrocarbon molecules that begin with the ethane and increase in size as additional carbon atoms are added. In US, NGLs are typically extracted during the process of natural gas industrial uses and in order for the gas to meet the pipeline specifications. This is the general composition of NGL gas, that is it consists of major portion consists of ethane, propane and butane. It constitutes around 95% and 5% other gases. All these gaseous fuels are odorless except those containing traces of H2S, and odor makers, that is, are introduced for the safety because its detection threshold for human smell is 0.4 ppm in volume. Therefore, odor markers, mainly sulfur containing compounds like thiols and mercaptans, are generally added to these gaseous fuels for the detection of these fuels during the leakage. Note that LPG is highly flammable and must be therefore stored away from the sources of its ignition and in well ventilated area so that any leakage can be dispersed safely. In the case of LPG, a special chemical called mercaptan, which is added to give LPG its distinctive unpleasant smell so that any leakage can be easily detected. So the characteristics nature, that is the characteristic odor of that LPG gas is due to the presence of mercaptan, which is added as an odor maker. References: Fundamentals of Petroleum and Petrochemical Engineering, Uttam Ray Chowdhury, CRC Press, Taylor Francis Group. And the next one, an overview on liquefied natural gas and its properties, the LNG industry and the safety considerations, Michele Micot Foss, CE, Bureau of Economic Geology, Jackson School of Geoscience, the University of Texas at Austin.